Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is Rishi. He's actually a neurobiologist specializing in perception and just how to understand the brain and how we perceive things.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to pick his brain, so today we're going to talk about like the left side of the brain, the right side of the brain, and also just about like the matrix and do we live in a you know matrix world or simulation behind the veil, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
How's it going, brother?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for asking. Um, so we're talking about the left brain and the
Mm-hmm.
right brain.
Mm-hmm.
Right before I send you an article
Right.
about like logic
Mm-hmm.
and how there's things called binary beats,
Mm-hmm.
where there's just like certain sound frequencies
Right.
that actually just match your that match brainwaves, like theta brainwaves,
Mm-hmm.
delta, and how some of them are designed to just shut off a piece of your brain.
Right.
Is that like even possible for someone that studied the brain?
To shut off a piece of the brain,
To side of the brain, yeah, or even
side
like
of
your
the brain.
logical side of the brain. So you stop thinking so
Yeah.
logically.
So, so for ordinary humans, it is hard to shut off one half of the brain, the other half. Maybe there are people who have been practicing, control meditation for a long time. In you know, Maybe it's possible for them, but for ordinary humans, people like me, it is pretty hard. But there are animals that are known to do it, like dolphins. One half of the brain sleeps while the other half of the brain works, just to keep them alive underwater. But for humans, it is for ordinary humans, it is hard.
That's why I think they designed that because they're experimenting on people. They're like, well, instead of just having to meditate
Mm-hmm.
for every day, having a rigorous practice for like 10, 15 years and
Mm-hmm.
becoming a yogi
Mm-hmm.
that can probably do these things, you
Mm-hmm.
just put on these beats. For
Right.
after a couple of weeks,
Right.
your brain or your body starts adapting to that
Right.
and the frequency of it, and then something
Right.
happens to you.
Right. So, the thing about beats is beats are generated when two waves are out of sync. It could be sound, it could be any wave, right? They're out of sync, and they create this pattern called destructive and constructive interference.
Okay.
So, for example, if you have a sound wave at 210 hertz and you have another sound wave that opposes it at like 240 hertz, right? You hear the difference, which is 30 hertz. And so it creates a pattern where the interference comes in, and you actually, if you construct ever are interested, like it's like, in the old days when you had Apple Music and you played that music, there used to be a little bar downstairs, down at the bottom.
Yeah.
You'll see these bars coming up and down, right?
Yeah. So when I used to DJ, they used to have that. They
Uh-huh.
still have that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a spectrogram. That's a
Okay.
spectral representation of the sound that you're producing, right? Even now, when we are recording our voice,
Mm-hmm.
it usually software show it as a spectrogram. That's where our frequencies lie when we speak, our vocal frequencies lie, right? So when you put these two waves together, binaurally or from a single speaker, let's say, you could actually see that 30 hertz in the spectrogram. The bars are separated by 30 hertz. And it could be created from a single speaker. It doesn't need to be two speakers. You just could mathematically mix those waves and output a signal, right? And the brain, on its part, perceives the difference, not the highest frequency in the entire signal. It actually perceives the difference between the two.
And would the brain be biased to one tone versus another?
Can the brain be biased? So,
Because last time we
to an
did it
extent,
to that
yes, right.
extent.
So, because our cochlea, we hear from 20 to 20,000 hertz. That's the human auditory range,
Mm-hmm.
right? And along this auditory range, the response of that membrane isn't constant. So there are some frequencies that are well represented, some frequencies that aren't so well represented. So there is an inherent bias in our peripheral hearing organ before those signals are carried to the brain itself.
Okay.
So our hearing organ, there is some bias.
There's some bias
Yeah.
to tune into anywhere from 0 to 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it.
20 to 20,000.
20 to 20,000.
We can't. It's very. We can't hear anything even close to 20. We can't hear it. So we can't hear anything below 20 at all.
Unless you do some LSD.
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know if that's not your
Yeah.
expertise.
Well, maybe if we tune the membrane, if there is a drug that could tune the membrane in such a way, the tension of the membrane,
Yeah.
perhaps there is, I could see a logical way in achieving it, but is that the reality and biological reality of us? That I don't know.
Is it because we're programmed that way, or like there's ever since we're born
Hmm.
we're tuning into that type of sounds?
No, it's more biological.
It's more biological.
Yeah.
Your ears are not capable of doing these
Your
things.
ears are not capable. Like evolutionarily, we have evolved to hear in that range.
Is it to defend ourselves from like animals and stuff like? Like
That's the environment we were dealing with.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
That's a speculation, although evolutionary sense it's hard to map out. But if nothing in biology makes sense without evolution, right?
Got it.
So in an evolutionary sense, if we could speculate how we got here, that would be by my best guesstimate.
And dude, what does white noise do to the brain? Do you know?
So white noise, if we speak about it spectrally, like the little bars we see when we are doing the DJing or analyzing a sound, if you look at white noise in that band, all the bars are of equal height, more or less.
They're equal height.
Yeah, that's what white noise is.
So there's no
White noise is a
disturbance.
band. It's what?
There's no distortion or disturbance. It's like a calm white noise.
So
It's flat.
it
It's
represents
flat.
all frequencies.
Okay.
All frequencies that your sound synthesizer or producer is capable of producing. It represents all frequencies, 0 to 20, all of same energy. I mean, 20 to 20K, let's say, all of same energy without any loss. That's why it's white noise, because it contains all frequencies in it.
And why does that help people sleep? Because I've read like articles. It's
Ooh,
recommended.
That's a great question. I don't know the neural correlate
Mhm.
of it,
Is
but
it supposed to like level you out? I mean, logically speaking, because if it's like all frequencies.
right, yeah, it does certainly mask information, a lot of information, right? It also, to an extent, if I could, if I could speculate the idea of how this could happen, if I were to hypothesize something, I would say that producing white noise, because it's activating all of it, there's a lot of lateral inhibition that comes in some frequencies. Even when we speak, there is some of that happening. My thought, hypothesis would be it's because it's eliciting so much inhibition that it's interfering with some of the processes that usually are active when we are awake.
You mean like thinking about paying your bills, thinking about your
Yeah,
girlfriend
maybe.
getting mad at you, this, that, like
Yeah.
all that stuff that you need to really, that rational brain. It
Yeah,
just helps you
yeah,
calm down.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. When you don't think about that stuff,
yeah.
you're more calm.
Well, the true solution,
The truth illusion?
the true solution
Uh-huh.
to those problems is to not have those problems in
Yeah,
the
big
first
time.
place.
Well, the truth behind even that is
Uh-huh.
you're the one that created those problems.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the one that created those
Yeah,
problems.
you are thinking about those problems, so
You're
therefore
thinking-
you are creating the problems for
Yeah,
yourself.
actually, you're feeding it when you're thinking about it.
Oh yeah,
So the key was not to have those
Yeah.
problems, not to create those problems, and
Yeah.
the fact that you're even thinking about it even more means you're
Mhm.
feeding it.
Oh yeah,
Which
absolutely.
goes back to what Tony Robbins says:
Mhm.
energy flows where attention goes. So you pay more attention to it.
Yeah.
You're giving it more energy.
Yeah, the more negative, the problem is the more negative distractions they are, the more they swap your energy.
Yeah.
Well, not just energy. Some of us are just happy people, right?
Yeah.
Some of us are not. Like I'm not a happy. Well, I'm not. I'm partially happy, partially,
Unhappy?
yeah. So
Because you're
it's
super smart, dude. You're thinking too
well,
much.
not really. I mean, there could be very smart people,
Mhm.
and they could be very happy people as well.
Yeah.
They could be not so smart people, and they're not happy as well.
Yeah.
So happiness has, unlike contrary to what people say, happiness has nothing to do with intelligence. You could be extremely smart and still be happy. It's just the type of environment we grow up in as
You think
kids.
just the environment?
Yeah.
You don't think just the person's state? Because no matter what environment you grow up in, you
Mhm.
have the power to change.
Oh yeah, you absolutely do.
You do.
You
You do.
absolutely do. But
First,
you need to. So people who grow up, who 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 come to, um, people who practice that and overcome how they grew up are consciously doing it
yeah, I'm consciously
because
doing it.
yeah,
I have to. I have
yeah,
to. I do affirmations. I did affirmations
yeah,
before I came here. I
yeah,
meditated 40 minutes before I came here. Because
yeah.
when I grew up, my parents came here from the Soviet, and
Mm-hmm.
they were taught, and their parents were taught, you have to like destroy the person's self-esteem, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
become a better person. And that's not really how it
Mm-hmm.
works.
Yeah.
So they're always like, oh, you're not gonna amount to anything, this, that, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
Yeah. While they send me off to like chess class.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like contradicting, you know?
Yeah.
But like you have to like grow up and realize, oh man, those things were bad.
Yeah.
Like let me overcome it. Doesn't matter what they think.
Yeah.
The
So
past doesn't really,
exactly.
it doesn't have to affect the future. It can,
Exactly.
but
It
it doesn't
can. Yeah.
have to
Yeah. Exactly. So the way you consciously did it, that's the hard part
until it's not.
until it's not. Yeah. When once you start practicing it, you can overcome it, right?
Yeah, but you have to face it. That's the hard part.
Yeah. That's
That
the
was
hard
the hard
part.
part
Yeah.
at first.
Yeah.
You just have to face it.
Yeah.
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 Or you could go into a dark room.
Oh yeah.
We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the famous saying that's attributed to the to the Buddha, even though Buddha didn't say it, is happiness is not the goal. Happiness is the path.
Happiness is the path.
Yeah. Happiness is the path you travel to get to a place that you want. It is not the goal in itself. It's a path.
It's a path.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say happiness comes from within. I
Oh
think the
yeah.
Dalai Lama said that, which is very
Yeah.
true, bro.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is very true.
Exactly. Yeah.
You would think like all these rich people, like you read about them, dude, they're like billionaires and they're
Mm-hmm.
like unhappy, they're
Mm-hmm.
miserable, or
Yeah.
actors. Like, dude, you have everything in this world.
Yeah.
But I guess that I talked to different people. They're like, apparently that comes from like maybe their childhood
Mm-hmm.
or the fact that they were never loved, so they
Mm-hmm.
thought they could replace that love
Mm-hmm.
with materialistic objects,
Mm-hmm.
and they gained those things, and it
Right.
doesn't help them at all.
Right.
Or versus someone else that's just like in love for like 50 years with his wife. He's old,
Right.
they're poor,
Mm-hmm.
but hey, dude, they're in love and they're just happy.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
it comes from within.
Yeah. I mean, some people use objects, materialistic objects, right? So
That's
I mean,
temporary, though, dude. I feel like
yeah.
that's temporary.
Yeah.
And after a
Absolutely.
while, that materialistic object, I've seen it, bro. I have friends that are rich.
Right.
It tends to lose its value.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to get bigger and better things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that loses its value. And then what the fuck is next?
Right.
You know, versus someone that could just like train himself to just sit down and meditate
Mm-hmm.
and then just maintain that state of like happiness or love
Mm-hmm.
that my friend is doing. So I just mimic the emotional behavior.
Right.
And then I have the same thing they do.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. I think, the thing with materialistic objects is materialistic objects eventually go away, right? It could be anything. It could be a car, it could be a house, it could be a person, even. It could go away. I think the idea of, there's ancient knowledge about it, but I think the fundamental idea of it is you shouldn't be attached to objects.
Shouldn't be attached to anything in life.
Yeah, anything. Even the hope or the wish that you should always be happy, you shouldn't be attached to that. Right? That's where you find happiness, when you're not attached to things. You do things because that's your duty, right? That's how you survive. That's your passion. You do it. But you shouldn't be attached to the job itself.
Yeah.
Right? Your happiness doesn't do on what you do or who you are or how much you have. It is just the constant existence of being happy.
And something about being in the present moment in that state
Mm-hmm.
plays a factor.
Oh yeah,
What
absolutely.
do you think that is, dude? From a I guess a religious perspective or a
Right.
neurobiological perspective. Something about when you're in the present moment, you have
Mhm.
more control of the
Uh-huh.
outcome.
Oh yeah.
I learned this. I mean, I was reading a physics book
Right.
because they're like the further out you go into
Right.
the future,
Yeah.
there's more variables and more factors.
Right.
So you can't control those things.
Yeah.
But the closer you are to this present moment, like right now, within
Mhm.
10 seconds, 20 seconds, within 5 minutes, I
Mhm.
can pretty much understand what's going on. But
Yeah.
like 5 hours from now,
Right.
there's way too many factors.
Yeah.
Like I can get into,
Absolutely.
something happens. I mean, you girl,
Yeah.
I don't go where I want it to.
Yeah.
Whatever, like something happens to you, I
Right.
trip, I break my leg. I
Right.
can't control those things. Or
Right.
maybe you can control some of
Right.
it.
Right. So in neuroscience, we have this neurobiology. As a more specifically, we have this idea that if you want to study something, study the specialists, right? And a great specialist, complete achiever.
You mean a specialist?
Yeah, a specialist.
You mean like the scholars, or like a specialist in that particular
Any
field?
specialization.
Like a sports?
Yeah, sports. That's exactly where I'm getting at. Like you have to see that video where Kobe Bryant talks about Steph Curry, right?
Yeah.
He's right
You
there
sent me
when
that.
he's playing the game. There is no emotion. The past points that he lost, the points he scored, that has no effect on him in the current present situation
But
where he has to
we could go
execute a
back to
play.
say the past doesn't affect his future. He doesn't let
Yeah.
the past affect him
See,
because
that's
he's in the
living in the
moment.
present. It's
Yeah,
in the
that's
moment. That's why he's so effective. Because how could you beat a man like that? I mean, not just a man. How could you beat a person like that who is always in the present? He has no weaknesses, right? You cannot estimate his strengths because he's just in the present. He's living in the present. You can study all his past, but because he's in the present,
yeah. The past
he's
doesn't
just,
matter.
yeah, he's just invincible. He or
Yeah.
she is just invincible, or whatever the gender is, the person is
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Whatever.
invincible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what neurobiologists do. They just study people that are like high achievers in their fields.
For me, I study animals who are specialists. If I want to study sound localization, I do it in specialists. Bats bats are the best sound localizing creatures that we know of. One of the best, at
Do they
least.
really have like sonar?
Yeah,
They do.
yeah. So the way they do it is they localize and the sound, they produce a sound pulse and they hear the reflection.
Kind of like Daredevil.
Yeah, exactly like Daredevil.
And that's a comic book
See that?
superhero.
Yeah. So if we want to study how sound is localized, we want to study those specialists, right? Who are really achievers in that particular area. So if in that sense, if you want to be successful, study how people got successful. You know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to to study happiness, study people who are happy.
But I feel like people that are happy. I mean, dude, they're a lot of times they're poor versus rich.
Yeah.
Because if they're rich, I mean, yeah, just I've met plenty of people that are rich
Right.
and happy, but
Right.
I feel like they have more problems, way
Yeah.
more problems. Like poor people, like they don't really. I mean, yeah, yes, they could have their own problems,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't really have too many things to worry about. They just have
Oh
to
yeah.
really feed themselves,
Oh yeah.
and it's pretty simple, dude.
Yeah.
You feed
Yeah.
yourself, you'll stay alive for the day or two.
Yeah.
I mean, and then like everything else you do is
Right.
depending on whether you're happy or not.
Right.
Because I talk to a lot of people. I don't know, man. It's just like, or people that work on farms
Mm-hmm.
that are very happy.
Mm-hmm.
They have a purpose and they're very healthy
Right.
also.
Yeah.
Because they work like I talked to some lady the other day, dude. She was 92 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't take any medication. Sees the doctor, I think like once every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, what were you doing? Like she's like, oh, I was painting my porch for 4 hours before
Yeah.
I started talking to you. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And like you meet people that are in their 50s. They're miserable. They live in New York City. They
Oh.
take like 10 medications. They
Yeah.
have like 5 specialists.
Yeah.
And then, but after a while, you start connecting the dots, and
Yeah.
like these people have a purpose, dude. They're
Yeah.
hard worker. They're happy.
Right.
Like you could tell by the tone. They're like, I don't really need anything. Like,
Right.
I'm just, I just need some help with my teeth. That's it.
Right. You know what scares me as a neuroscientist is the amount of counseling, mental health counseling that is needed these days. We are way short on
Counselors.
yeah, mental health counselors and mental health workers in general. We're way short on them, right? And we require so much of that right now. It's insane.
But I feel like most
How
of those
much we
people with
need
their
it.
problems, first, they're
Right.
first world problems.
Yeah.
They're not popular enough.
Yeah.
They're not skinny enough.
Yeah.
They're not, I don't know, happy enough.
Yeah.
But they kind of do those things themselves, dude.
Yeah,
A
they
lot
do.
of times they do, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
and this when you talk to some of the people who are in this, they give you this logic of, oh, in the past there used to be problems like this, but we never dealt with them. That's why we don't know that they exist. So we just brushed it under the rug and moved on. But now we are identifying more of those problems. The problem with all of that logic is that it's just justifying what we are doing right now. Right? All the things that we added on top of our existence in the past 25 years have resulted in
Yeah.
this slew of problems.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
You know how much of these, so at the majority, the overwhelming majority of the cases that need help. When people talk to their counselors about what's going on, overwhelming majority of that discussion is around family.
Really?
Yeah, overwhelming majority of it is around family. Could be anything. I mean, any issue, any problems, but it revolves around family.
Huh.
You know,
Interesting. I thought it would evolve around themselves. Well, yeah, they
some of
are.
them they do, but then
Like, what, my
the
family doesn't love
repercussions
me,
of
or
yeah, the
my kids?
repercussions of doing something, the first the first consequence is on your family, right? You become famous. The consequence, the nearest people to you are your family. So
What is that?
any issue that arises, it resonates in the family. It goes around in the family,
What
right?
does that do from a neurobiological biological perspective? Like the stress level to your body, your
Oh,
mind. It
it's
just
extreme.
erodes you.
It erodes you. It goes back to problems of being rich too, right? A lot of people have this problem. Oh, because I'm the richest person in my family. Everybody asks me for money, right? And then you don't necessarily give them the money. Then the Thanksgiving dinners,
They don't call
become
you,
more
so
and more awkward,
they
right?
become more and more awkward.
More and more awkward, and those things could be very disruptive to
Yeah, they
one's
can.
health, right? Because family is closest. That's where you feel loved. That's where you feel safe. Once that space becomes very awkward and unsafe and restrictive, then the the way your brain reacts to it is not good at all.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Got it.
So a happy family, in other words, a happy any happy union, friendship, family, an organization, is where individuals feel safe and want to do what they want to do, but there is a kind of synergy that when you do things together, it adds up synergistically to something good. That's the best association, right? It doesn't matter if it's a family or an organization or a friendship. That's the best way to go about it. Anything else, when um, is kind of detrimental to anyone's life. Family, friends, organizations.
cool. You heard it.
Organizations mostly fail because they don't have that synergistic aspect.
Or lack of communication,
Yeah,
lack of purpose.
lack of
I
purpose.
feel
Yeah.
like, but the happiest people in life, they have purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
they have a sense of purpose.
Oh,
Oprah always
absolutely.
talks about this.
Yeah.
Just have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
More than purpose. What did I say? Just giving back. Be able to help. To like, just give back.
Yeah.
Give back to your community.
Yeah.
Give back to the people you love. Give back
Right.
to complete strangers. Just
Mm-hmm.
have even this podcast. I'm gonna
Yeah.
share it with the internet.
Yeah.
It's gonna find its way to people.
Yeah.
Like,
Lose your material wealth. That's the best way to be happy.
yeah,
Lose it. You
losing
don't
material,
have to fight
or
for
have a
possession.
But there's also people, dude, that got it right. There's like rich people, and I want to bring this up, that
Mm-hmm.
falls into like the matrix theory or like
Mm-hmm.
simulation world.
Mm-hmm.
They always think, this is how I started thinking of making more money. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
come from a place of love, and
Mm-hmm.
I come from a place of abundance. I have
Mm-hmm.
abundance of everything. I have
Mm-hmm.
abundance of time.
Mm-hmm.
I have abundance of
Yeah.
money and health,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not afraid to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I start giving some of it away,
Yeah.
and I get more back.
Yeah.
And then there's something about that, dude. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't measure it,
Right.
but it's like, when you do good things, good
Right.
things happen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's not
It
karma. It's just
yeah.
like you have to do it from a place of.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
it could be karma.
It goes back to, I mean, there are scientific evidences for that. I mean, you could measure it, of course. A kinder society is made by kinder individuals.
Yeah,
It's not made by hostile individuals, right?
yeah,
That goes back to how dynamical systems in the universe operate, right? You can't expect, um, on an average, if we take the average of things, you can't expect a kinder society to be made up of, entirely insecure, hostile, combative beings. That doesn't happen. There has to be a harmony associated with it. You have to do the right thinking. A great example, there are good academics and bad academics, right? And most of us fall somewhere in between. A good academic scenario is where um, you you're part of the college. You have to be collegial to
you're
people.
part of a collective.
You're part of a collective, right? And the more positive things you do as a part of that collective plays on the collective, right? If you create a hostile environment, every other being has to, combat that hostility in their own way. Some of them turn hostile, some of them become indifferent, some of them won't participate anymore. And we see this happening all the time in the society.
That falls under zero-sum game
Yeah,
or like tit for tat.
yeah,
You help other people, they'll turn around and
yeah,
help you.
yeah. Most of the time, there is the worst thing is they'll be indifferent to your help.
At least they won't do something bad to you.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing at all. In fact, most of the society is indifferent to whatever you or I do in the society, right? But if you put in positive things, there are those elements um, on the ends, on the extremums, who will notice that. They either learn from it, or they get inspired by it, or uh, they want to be friends with you, and then you could do things as a collective.
Yeah. Like
Those are
this.
the things that change the society.
But it
Right?
could also be as simple as when you walk down the street,
Mhm.
just smile at people.
Yeah.
First, you'll be happier when you're smiling.
Right.
Just biologically,
Right.
you're causing yourself to
Right.
smile, which
Right.
changes your neurons
Hmm.
to be more happy. And like other people reciprocate that.
Right. But most of the times it is hard because most of us are always anxious thinking about something while we are walking down a street, right? It's a whole different
Yeah, but I've been to some meditation retreats, dude, where
Mhm.
like they encourage like people like smile all the
Right.
time,
Right.
and then people like hug each other because you're in this like hotel, like this big complex for like a week,
Hmm.
dude. But you can feel the energy in the place.
Yeah.
Like even when I drive to it,
Mhm.
and this happens to me every time, and like it's always encouraged to like
Mhm.
just smile, be happy, like my mood starts changing. Even as I'm driving there,
Right.
like with the last 10 minutes, like I'm like dancing to the music like that's playing in the car.
Right.
But when I get there, people are just smiling at me.
Yeah.
Random people hug me, and then
Mhm.
my mood changes. Like it
Mhm.
elevates, and guess what? I'm feeding to that collective.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's
Absolutely.
like what do they call it? Like yeah, it's a collective.
Yeah. It's a group thing that we humans do. There are a lot of factors for that. For example, mirror neurons. When you mirror others' actions
But the
onto
point,
itself,
but the whole point of that meditation is you see that current state that you're in by day
Mhm.
4 or 5 when you're happy, you're
Mhm.
relaxed,
Mhm.
you're away from your life. You
Mhm.
should be like this all the time, every
Right.
time, and you can. You
Right.
can. There's certain factors that change it, like your
Right.
wife,
Yeah.
I don't know, your mother-in-law.
Right.
But the point is to stay in that current state
Right.
of abundance and love
Right.
your whole life.
Right.
And dude, you'll be happy, you'll be rich, you'll have a
Yeah.
hot girlfriend or whatever boyfriend, whatever you're into.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's a great example is when we watch late night comedies.
Yeah.
You know, most of the time we laugh, we smile because there is that laughter and smiling going on after.
Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, after the joke, right? That it's artificial, of course. And applause goes up on the big screen, but when they laugh, you are chances that you are going to laugh as well. You're going to enjoy it,
Like a sitcom, like Friends.
like a sitcom. Yeah.
Okay.
So, so those kinds of things, it's because then you feel as a part of a group.
What did you call that? Mirror neurons, right?
Mirror neurons are those that mirror actions.
Isn't laughing action though?
Yeah, true. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, the association with the visual system and, the the motor actions as well are another story, the
So
sound, smiling and laughing.
one thing I learned yesterday, I was watching something about religion and science.
Mm-hmm.
You would know because you're a scientist and you're also
Mhm.
religious. Right now in a society we live where science is on top, and then below that, our sense of
Oh.
rationalizing science is on top, and then after that comes religion, and then
Mhm.
at the very bottom is
Mhm.
like magic or alchemy, as they would say. But like 500 years ago, even Sir Isaac Newton,
Right.
Leonardo da Vinci, they thought all three of them were connected somehow. But in
Oh.
the society we live in,
Right.
it's like, oh, if you can't prove it in a scientific lab, it doesn't really exist. And then after that, there's people that are like, oh, I'm religious, I don't really care too much about it, and then the
Right.
magic is like washed away.
Yeah, as a society, the groups become very complex, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's easy for us to talk about individuals, about happiness of an individual, about success, about failure, of sadness,
but we see it in other people, bro. It's not like
Yeah,
something I'm making up.
yeah,
I
no,
literally see it,
yeah,
count time and time again.
yeah,
I read it in books.
yeah. No, I do believe you. The thing is, for me to think about it, you know, for according to the group theory that, one stays on top, the other stays on. What I think is we as a society, um, we are complex,
We are so very
right?
complex.
Society is complex. It's what I describe as a dynamical system of ideas. One idea goes on top, the other idea goes on top. After, there's a cycle with this. Um, but in terms of is science on top? Yeah, because I'm a scientist. I walk around scientist. So for me, science occupies most of my day, right? If you're a priest, religious philosophy occupies most of your day, you know. Um, if if you're, mystic, mysticism, ideas, imaginative, creative thinking occupies most of your day. So in a society that is today, I mean, America is still pretty religious, right?
Yeah.
Britain, with all its, atheism, is still a religious country, right? India, where I come from, is a very religious country.
Very.
That's not to say that science doesn't play a big role. Science does play a big role. That's why if science is the very reason why America is on the top of, is at the top, right?
But I feel like if you have too much of rationality and not enough belief
Mhm.
and hope,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
that kind of like it dries things up,
Yeah,
and
it does.
it falls into a black and white, which isn't really how
Mhm.
the world works, dude. There's
Mhm.
a lot of gray area.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is what again, science. We talk about science in that sense, but as a general concept. But science has very specific connotations, right? Science is a method of asserting the truth. It's not the truth unto itself. Right? Science is not facts and reality. Science is just a way to test if that's part of the reality or not. It's just one way of doing it.
One way,
It's
yeah, but
you don't have to do it that way. I mean, for example, you can eat turmeric, you can eat spices. If
we're
you
talking
want to
about.
just cook the animal in its own meat, you're free to do so. Various ways of living,
You
right?
mentioned something really important. You said off air that we're talking about ayahuasca
Mm-hmm.
in Amazon, where I
Mm-hmm.
was, and it's not really based off of science because I was asking them. They're like, "Well, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? We tried this. It was trial and
Mm-hmm.
error,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just it works or it doesn't work."
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that could be a form of science, but they didn't really take it into a laboratory. But
Right.
this is like things that have been passed down for thousands of
Right.
years. They literally get two plants from the Amazon
Mm-hmm.
forest, and I went to Amazon forest, dude. There's a
Right.
lot of plants, a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
They throw it in a pot, they
Mm-hmm.
cook it for 12 hours, people drink it, and
Mm-hmm.
suddenly they're cured, bro, of alcoholism. They're
Yeah.
cured, they have a mystical experience, this, that. Like,
Yeah.
how did they come up with this?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, it's here in the Amazon, but we do have examples from from the old world. When I
Yeah.
mean the old world, both Asia and Europe and Africa, all of that together. Um, tea is a great example, right? How did we know that tea is a thing,
I love
right?
tea, man.
Yeah,
Chamomile, my
yeah.
favorite.
How do we know tea is a thing, right? Because people just boil leaves.
There's a whole science to tea.
Yeah,
There's a whole, like in Japan,
extraction. Yeah.
and not just that, how to pour the tea,
Oh yeah.
how to properly boil it.
Yeah.
Dude, like, they take that very
How to
seriously.
preserve. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. China, Japan. Yeah.
And people that would go to war with each other, this is
Mhm.
crazy, dude. Like, two, like, very powerful, like, samurais,
Yeah.
they would have tea
Yeah.
the day before just so they could understand each other.
Yeah.
And then the
There.
next day they would go to war and kill each
Yeah.
other.
There is humanity in the entirety of humanity. There are groups of people who actually milk frogs
Mm-hmm.
and use that as a form of a stimulant.
Yeah, it's called bufo.
Yeah, bufo. Yeah,
Bufo. So what happens is the bufo is apparently the strongest psychedelic
yeah.
that we know to man. It's
Mhm.
stronger than like LSD.
Mm-hmm.
It's stronger than DMT. It's actually
Mhm.
DMT 05 or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like DMT times 10.
Mm-hmm.
Think of DMT on steroids.
Yeah.
So the frog, it's like a wart on the back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They had it all over Amazon actually.
Yeah.
Where they squeeze the zit,
Right.
and then apparently they dry it up and you smoke it,
Yeah.
and then the veil starts melting off,
Yeah.
and then you see the world.
Right.
I don't know what the hell you see.
Yeah.
But also people have gone into psychosis from that.
Right.
I don't know if that's like. I don't know. I don't know if there's a healing factor to that. Maybe I don't know. Like if you're stuck in a certain mindset,
Right.
you have OCD,
Right.
and it changes everything around you. And
Yeah.
you're like, holy shit, dude, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
and people snap out of it.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what LSD does.
yeah. I mean, another example is psilocybin, right? A lot of research is
Psilocybin
coming out
mushrooms.
that psilocybin
I was gonna
itself.
ask you about that. You
Yeah.
reminded me. I got a thing that I started taking because I was reading about lion's mane.
Mm-hmm.
It helps your memory. S-
Ah,
It's
I
like a type of psilocybin, but it's just
ah
like a healthy one. Like it's just like a pill. They just sell it
ah
on Amazon.
oh,
It's
I
like
see.
it's not even microdosing, dude. It's like it has this trace of psilocybin,
Mm-hmm.
but it's lion's mane.
Mm.
Have you heard of that before? Just
No,
for like memory.
no. Yeah, I think what psilocybin does is works on the plasticity of neurons, of how circuits are connected.
So
It's good. I mean, it's
so you
yeah.
said how the neurons are connected. What's funny is I'm in the tech world,
Mm-hmm.
um, but the programmers in the tech.
Mm-hmm.
So what they do is it's called microdosing.
Mm-hmm.
So the psilocybin mushroom, if you take
Mm-hmm.
a full dose, I think it's
Mm.
like 2 grams.
Right.
They take like 1/16 of a gram, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
very small,
Mm-hmm.
or like 2/16 of a gram,
Mm-hmm.
and it just helps them become super creative.
Right. Right.
They're not high
Mm-hmm.
when they explain it to me. They're like, dude, I just feel like very loose,
Yeah.
and I'm not stressed out.
Yeah, they
They're in
could
that
think
flow state.
outside. Yeah, they
They're
think
in that.
outside the box when they do that.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, right? So if you think about what programming really is, right? You're making things do a particular task. So what's writing that program? It's your neural code, right? The way your neurons are connected. It's not even connections. It's the way how your neurons are communicating, right? It's literally like a machine telling a machine what to do. That's what it is in the end, right? So if you alter the way your neurons are communicating,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to alter the code, right? The code you write.
Your internal code too.
Yeah. So everything plays into it. For example, if you're stressed, what I found in a lot of ways is when I'm stressed, I don't write good code, right? If I have to be creative, efficient, and to write good code,
Right.
right? Then I have to be relaxed. I
Yes.
have to be creative. I
Very.
have to be in a stable state of mind,
Beta
right? Yeah,
or theta. Theta is at that flow state, where like you see
it's
athletes in their zone,
right.
where you're
Yeah,
in the zone.
yeah.
Like there's nothing bothering you. Like you
Mhm,
said, Curry,
mhm.
just in the present moment,
In the
nothing's
present
bothering.
moment, yeah. That
Yeah.
it's in that state you unlock a sense where your mind is free to to move from thought to thought without being um, too put in a box. You're free to be creative. You could call plays that you wouldn't usually call, right? It's the same for writing the code too. If you want to write a good efficient code, you got to be in a state of calm, and it goes back to how Linus Torvalds, the guy who created Linux,
Uh huh.
he talks about how his office looks in one of these TED Talks, I think. All it is I think it's a light shade of green. He has a machine that doesn't make much sound. So the only thing other than himself and his machine in the room is his cat. And that's all there is to it. A sense of calm where he could focus on writing good code
Yeah.
without any pressure,
Without
any
any
peer
distractions.
pressure, without any distractions.
That's why when I work,
Right.
my phone is in the other room.
Yeah.
I don't want my phone anywhere near me, man.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
don't want any distractions. When I'm at work, I'm at work.
Yeah.
When I'm outside of work, I don't
Yeah.
want to work.
Yeah.
That's just like separate them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's true for the thing is, do you think that's the question that I always ask people, like, being you, what makes you you, right? Do you think do you see work as separate from being you? Is your work a separate entity from you?
It is, but I bring my identity into my work.
Hmm.
But my work isn't really in my identity in itself.
So if we take away work
Yeah.
from you,
Yeah.
would you be a very different person or not?
No, I'd be the same as that person. Because I
Yeah.
could do that work somewhere else.
Yeah. So for me, I can't separate it, right? So it again
I get
goes
what you're
back
saying.
to
Because you're a
different.
scientist. Yeah, of course.
Well, not just a scientist. Even if I'm just a person, given the job of cutting the grass, right? And of course, gardening makes a lot of people calm, because they could really focus on
Right.
what they're doing and be in the present. And I have seen it in a lot of old. My grandfather used to garden a lot. Like,
Good.
he used to feel very, very calm when he used to do that, very focused.
The meditator,
Yeah.
the guy who was like, how old is he now?
I think he's 94, 95.
Sharp.
I think. Yeah, he's pretty sharp.
What do you mean? Yeah, he's pretty sharp. 94 and sharp. That's pretty good because he meditated for like. Didn't you say he meditates all the time, and he's still
I
physically
think
active?
he started meditating in his 40s.
Nice. Hey,
So it's 50 years. I mean,
that's still good, dude. That's an avid
meditation, breathing
meditator.
exercises.
That's
Yeah.
a very avid meditator.
Yeah. I always tell people that, in the modern world, it's very hard to be that way. But,
But it's not. If you get into that state,
yeah,
you're
it
like,
takes
now it's just a
practice,
part of my
conscious
life.
practice.
But here's the thing I've learned. I was meditating for 2 hours every day
Mm-hmm.
consistently, but I took a little step back
Mm-hmm.
because I was doing it and then it became a chore. It
Mm-hmm.
made me feel good
Mm-hmm.
afterwards, but it was a chore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I meditate, right before, I have to
Mhm.
add a purpose to it,
Right.
intention. Like, what is the intention of me meditating?
Oh, yeah.
Am I calming down?
Yeah.
Do I want to reach a different state?
Right.
Do I want to focus? Do I
Right.
want to sharpen my mind?
Right.
Like, what is the purpose of this meditation that I'm sitting down for half an hour, 1 hour, and doing? And that's actually more effective.
Right.
Because we're human beings, we want to be more productive.
Right.
And more effective. We want to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, sooner. Technically, you're already there if you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. True. I
Um.
think, there are various forms of meditation too. Oops.
All right, go. It's all good.
Okay. Yeah. So there are various forms of meditation too, right? For example, just walking on the street, is a form of meditation unto itself, right? And Einstein used to do that a lot. He used to walk. He used to. I think it's a piece of article. I think I read Einstein used to sleep for 10 hours. Make breakfast, go for a walk.
So that's in
He used
Pasadena,
to.
my hometown. My dad's friend bought his house actually.
Oh, in Einstein's house.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been to that house a couple of times.
Uh-huh.
It's right by Caltech.
Oh, right by Caltech.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes walking.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. He used to walk a lot, So it's the idea that successful people work all the time isn't necessarily real, right?
No, it's
And
not, dude.
depends on success too. Like, if you want to make money, you have to work all the time.
But what is success?
Yeah.
You have to understand that. What's
Yeah.
success to you? Like, it could be I just make enough to feed my family, and I'm always there with my family, teaching them morals.
Yeah.
Or I'm always at board director meetings, making tens of millions of dollars,
Yeah.
but my kids are over there smoking crack. You know,
Yeah. That's a horrible.
that's
Yeah.
success. So it depends on the individual too.
Yeah. I mean, for me, success is
Balance.
I'm alive.
Yeah.
I'm alive. I'm healthy. I don't have to be stressed about a lot of things.
Yeah.
For me, this state of existence is a success, right? So, it depends on the success as well. But, it's for some people, for example, work is meditation. And therefore, constantly being at work is a success unto itself for them.
I don't know,
You
man.
know?
I feel like most people, when you're working that
Right.
long, like
Right.
10, 12 hours,
Oh, that's
You're-
any work, right?
you're. I feel like you're masking something.
Mm-hmm.
You're. Maybe there's something you don't want to think about.
True.
You're drowning it out.
That's true.
They should
There's
say a
component of
divorce.
that. Yeah.
Depression. You're like, let me put my mind on something else.
Yeah.
Well, you should actually be facing that thing.
Yeah.
Just overcoming it. And then you cause health issues for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, maybe for some people, that distraction works. They could be distracted enough that, it will eventually drown it away.
Yeah. On the last note,
Mm-hmm.
what are your thoughts about like simulation world? Because last time we were talking, we left
Mhm.
off. You're like, oh, based on my personal beliefs, I believe we live in some people say hologram
Mhm.
world.
Yeah, but it is definitely a, a simulation, but not in the way that we think about simulation in a computer game or a computer.
That's how Elon
Um,
Musk thinks.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily the way it works, right? I live in a simulation because I created that simulation. The way I thought about, for example, the you who is sitting in front of me
Yeah.
is built upon my own perception of what I think about you,
Based on your past.
right? It might have to do very little with who you are as a person, right? in that way, I'm living in my own simulation, my own thoughts of you. It might have nothing to do with the reality of who you are as a person.
You mean you're judging me based on the book, on the cover of the book?
Not necessarily judging. It's even more fundamental than that, right? Judging
You're
is a
seeing me.
complex. The way I'm seeing you is defined by my past, my thoughts, as you said, my logic
Mm-hmm.
of arriving at things. So I am living in my own simulation. The problem with Elon Musk's definition of reality is if you need a simulation that contains all of us in a single simulation driven by a single being, whoever it might be, God, something else, or gods. The problem with all of that is this the fundamental thing that people fail to understand about things. A simulation has to have a simulating rate, a rate at which the universe works. If you want to move from X to Y, there's a certain path you take, let's say x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, and then y,
Okay.
right? All of these states have to be measurable. You need to know when you're at x1 and you're proceeding towards x2.
Maybe we just haven't measured it correctly.
Well, we haven't, but any measure, even correct, incorrect, has to have a particular rate. So the universe has to be sampled at a particular rate, right? What is that sampling rate?
What, it's time and speed?
No, there exists none. There is nothing that's sampling the universe. The reality is a continuous flow, right? At least the perceivable reality is
Perceivable reality, yes.
for us is a continuous flow. So I tend to think that the simulation we are living in is the one that we built ourselves in our heads,
Each individual.
each
And that's
individual.
why it's very hard to measure people.
It's
And
very
the
hard
thought
to measure.
process.
Everybody is working at a different rate. So I think that's the simulation we are living in, right? For example, religion. A deeply religious person's view of the world and the way he sees things around them is very different from how a scientist or a sports guy who is playing sports is extremely successful at
But-
living in the moment.
But here's
The
the
way
thing.
how he sees it is different.
I trust
he or she.
people that are very religious. Like I have more trust for them than like honestly most other people. Because I feel like most of them are inherently good or they're trying to be good.
Mhm.
When someone's like very religious, like most
Mhm.
religions are good, man.
Mhm.
Like honestly, like even like if it's a cult, it
Mhm.
teaches like good things
Mhm.
for other people.
Mhm.
So like people that are like deeply religious, like I don't know, for some reason I have a sense of respect for them and trust. Like these people are like hardworking.
Mhm.
They stick to their teeth. Maybe the religion's right or wrong. I mean,
Right.
that's not my place to say that.
Right.
But I feel like I have a little bit more trust for them or
Well-
more respect for them.
So let's, I mean, so for example, let's take a person who is deeply religious, lives by the code of his religion, right? It's easy to trust them fundamentally because they operate on a set of rules,
Right.
right?
So I can
Set of
predict
rules
them.
that we could understand and define. And that's what makes trust is we know the process of the action and how they act in certain situations.
Got it. That's probably why, because I can predict them.
Yeah,
I
it's
can
predictable.
understand them.
It's
Yeah,
more
the
predictable.
yeah, the behavior is predictable.
Yeah, systems. So here is the thing: systems that could be predicted, we automatically trust them, right?
Yeah.
As human beings, any system that's predicted, we can trust them, right? For example, social security,
Yeah.
right? It's a trustable system because we built that system. It operates the same way, right? Therefore there is trust,
There's trust. It works.
right? Trust
For
that
now.
works. Yeah. For now, I mean, in an ideal world, 911. Who arrive at your place as soon as they can when you call them.
Yeah.
That's a very trustworthy system,
The big time.
right? So any system that is predictable, built on certain rules, is trustworthy. Any person living in those set boundaries of those rules is trustworthy as well, right? Unpredictability yields distrust.
But apparently, going into the unknown is very good for your brain when you adopt that.
When you're
When-
in the right mindset.
When you're in the right mindset.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you train yourself to be in the right mindset. I like going into the unknown.
Mhm.
Like when I was in Egypt,
Mhm.
and I travel all the time. You know me. Someone said, why are you traveling from? Like, are you running away from something?"
Mhm.
And I thought about it. I was like, no, not at all. They're like, why are you traveling? And I'm like, I just love going into the unknown.
Yeah.
Because I can't predict what's going to happen,
Mhm.
and I love that feeling, bro.
Yeah.
But some people are terrified of that.
Oh yeah, it takes a mindset.
So
It really
the way
takes a
I
mindset.
travel, all I do is when I get there, I have no itinerary.
Mm-hmm.
I just have the first night booked.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever happens, happens.
Mm-hmm.
I have no standards of like I'm gonna have the greatest time. I mean, I always am, but I just get the first night.
Mm-hmm.
I get there, I talk to people. What should I do? Should I go north, south, do this, and then I just after that, I just like do it. But like until I get there,
Mm-hmm.
I have no preconceived notion of what's gonna happen
Right.
because I've never been there, dude.
Right.
And I have no like it doesn't really set a bar, but it's
Mm-hmm.
awesome
Mm-hmm.
because I can't base the future
Mm-hmm.
on the past.
Yeah.
And I love that, man,
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
Like me and you don't know what it feels like to go into like Marrakesh,
Right.
Morocco.
Right.
I can't. I've been to Egypt. I can't.
Right.
It's not the same as
Right.
Marrakesh. I mean,
Mhm.
I've been to freaking Idaho.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not the same as
Right.
Morocco.
Yeah.
So until I get there,
Right.
I don't know, man.
It's yeah.
But I'm gonna get there,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna have a fucking blast.
It might have to do something with you being an athlete as well. You know what I mean?
But my parents always taught that to me, actually.
Yeah.
Like ever since I was a kid, they always
Mhm.
said, "Don't worry about the money. Just
Yeah.
be happy and travel, see the
Yeah.
world. It's a beautiful place."
Yeah.
And they used to take me a lot of places.
Yeah. Yeah.
Me and my
See,
sister are the same.
maybe
Like
that's why you're an athlete to start with.
maybe.
You know, because when you're playing a sport, for
Yes.
example,
Yeah.
um, any work, I mean, any work that requires, constant challenge,
Yeah.
right? You always try to live in the present
Yeah.
to face that challenge,
You have to, bro.
right? Or else, I mean, for example, you're a swimmer, right?
Yeah. I just want before I got here
Yeah.
actually today.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you have to, when you're swimming the open waters or things like that, you have to be always on the current. You have to place your breathing in a certain rhythm, your movements are rhythmic,
Right.
You have to be constantly pushing to stay in that particular pattern.
So, but
Right.
when I was a kid, I used to be a finite player.
Mm-hmm.
That means I used to compare myself to other people, which is
Mhm.
not a good way at life.
Yeah.
You have to be an infinite player. You have to constantly try to be better than yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be Michael Phelps,
Mm-hmm.
but I could be a better of myself.
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way
That's-
better.
Yeah, that's the thing. That pushing to be a better version of yourself
Yeah.
is the thing that places you in the right mindset to be in the present,
Yeah.
right?
And that way,
Not
you
comparing to someone else. When you start comparing it to someone else,
Yeah.
you're comparing yourself to an image that you have in your head, right? It's not real. You have it in your head, and you're pushing yourself towards that. So you're kind of stuck in a state of mind that's not in the present.
and that's
right.
how you change your
And
reality.
you're not facing the challenge that's right in front of you,
Nice.
right?
Cool.
So you're taking a tangent towards that. And that's, I mean, for me, that never worked. You know. So
Meditate
I
more,
mean,
man.
it looks like it never worked for you too, because comparing to someone else.
Yeah.
Is
But that's also dangerous because let's say you have a nice car,
Right.
you have a nice house,
Uh-huh.
you make $20,000-$30,000 a month, but you're
Right.
comparing yourself to someone that has a bigger house that makes
Right.
$100,000 a month,
Yeah.
and then now you're gonna be miserable
Yeah.
when you're actually the top 1% of the world,
Yeah.
and you actually should be really happy because you're generally just successful in life.
Yeah.
But deep down inside, you're miserable.
Yeah.
Because you're just comparing yourself to everyone else.
Yeah.
And you're not content with everything.
Yeah.
When you should be.
Yeah, and that affects the decisions that you take to get better as
the-
well.
But that affects your family.
Oh yeah,
That affects your health.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's a great way to end this podcast.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I hope to talk
It's
to
a
you
great
again.
talk. Yeah.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and subscribe, and we will catch you next time.
Mhm.
Thanks again, Rishi. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Thank you.